Yesterday, we saw two major stories in the culture war pertaining to Major League Baseball. The first was a struggle session in which a pitcher from the Blue Jays says, "I'm so sorry, I will be re-educated," after he supported the boycotts against Target, and I believe also Bud Light, but everybody was just saying Target. Here's a guy that people said was a professed Christian bending the knee to a cult or a non-theistic religion, whatever you want to call it, seemingly rejecting his own faith. But the other story, two other major league players spoke out against the wokeness that's happening in LA with the anti-Christian drag nuns, and one apparently even called for a boycott. This is big news. Ladies and gentlemen, I know things may seem tough. And last night we were talking about the Chick-fil-A going woke, about the story. Chick-fil-A hires a diversity, equity, and inclusion VP. We had Seth Weathers who said, "You're going to have a hard time boycotting that because suburban moms don't care." And I refuse to accept that line of thinking. I just can't do it. It is triggering to me. The idea that with all of the successes we've had with Bud Light, I got to show you their stock. Once you see their numbers, whoa, they're way down. All of their gains from this year erased. Target, apocalyptic decline. It's the Bud Light effect. And now we're seeing high-profile athletes stand up and say no to wokeness. So when I hear about Chick-fil-A, of all places, going as woke as possible, like we're not talking about a promo. We're not talking about them being like, here's a commercial where we have drag queens, which I believe they did. We're talking about them creating an office of a cult. Imagine if Chick-fil-A announced they were creating a Chinese Communist Party vice president to run that. It's no different. And I'm not even kidding. Having a DEI, a day cult VP, is outright creating an office in a corporation for a non-theistic religion. That is insane. A lot of companies do have this. We're seeing it more and more. It's very much like the Chinese Communist Party. They make sure that every company that's a certain size has a Chinese Communist Party office. This is what these crackpots are trying to do. But you know what? The people of the United States are defiant. This country was founded on independence, literally, a Declaration of Independence, individuality, meritocracy, personal responsibility. And now, despite the fact that we got Toronto Blue Jays, I get it, he's Canadian, cowering in fear, and in my view, outright rejecting his faith, we see two individuals in Major League Baseball saying no. Now, my friends, I am no Christian. I do believe in God, as I often say. I have a unique view on life and all of that stuff. I'm not a Christian. I don't follow those tenets, but I can tell you this. You want to know what my problem is with the left? I am a traditional / classical liberal in that I actually am not a fan of hate speech. As it's true. I think people should be allowed to speak whatever they want. But if I saw a large public institution hosting a minstrel show, I would say, hey, that's messed up. Don't patronize that business. Are they allowed to do it? Sure. I don't think they should. So what's the difference here? When the LA Dodgers hosts what is effectively spitting in the face of a religious group. Now, you see, the left's view is there is no truth but power. They don't care because Christians are the dominant religion. I don't think that matters. I think attacking someone for these, based on these qualities, characteristics, or faiths, beliefs, etc., you don't do it. I'm not a fan of it. And I think it should be rejected outright. That includes if someone is LGBTQ, whatever, I don't like. And you'll notice on all of my shows, I don't go after people for these things. I'm not a fan of that. I go after ideas. Drag show, literally don't care. Not going to rag on something. Hey, that's not me. I'm not a conservative. However, you target children, we've got a problem. LA Dodgers wants to bring in what is effectively a minstrel show for Christians to spit on, insult, and mock Christians. I think that's wrong. And I think this exposes the absolute hypocrisy of the left. They don't care about hate speech. They only care about power. And this proves it. For all of these leftists who are like, you can't insult Christians. They're the dominant. You can. Why create enemies? Why create hate? Because the left doesn't actually care. They're lying to you. And this is what pisses me off the most. Hypocrites wielding the cudgel of civil rights when in fact they, more than any other group, despise civil rights. Take a look at their stance with critical race theory. People like Derek, what's his name? Is it Derek Bell? No, I'm forgetting his name. I think it is. I think it's Bell, right? Yep, Derek Bell. Okay, I got it. Derek Bell wants segregation. These people make a mockery of it. So let's call it out. Here's a story from the Post-Millennial. LA Dodgers pitcher releases statement slamming team's decision to honor anti-Christian drag nuns organization. My convictions in Jesus Christ will always come first. I think I have the tweet here. Sean Folkt, probably pronouncing it wrong, says, my friend and Major League Baseball pitcher Blake Treinen asked that I post this statement for him in regards to the Dodgers honoring of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And here's his post. He says, I am disappointed to see, I'll zoom in a little bit. I am disappointed to see the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence being honored as heroes at Dodger Stadium. Many of their performances are blasphemous, and their work only displays hate and mockery of Catholics and the Christian faith. I understand that playing baseball is a privilege and not a right. My convictions in Jesus Christ will always come first. Since I have been with the Dodgers, they have been at the forefront of supporting a wide variety of groups. However, inviting the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to perform disenfranchises a large community and promotes hate of Christians and people of faith. This single event alienates the fans and supporters of the Dodgers, Major League Baseball, and professional sports. People like baseball for its entertainment value and competition. The fans do not want propaganda or politics forced on them. The debacle with Bud Light and Target should be a warning to companies and professional sports to stay true to their brand and leave the propaganda and politics off the field. I believe Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins. I believe the word of God is true. And in Galatians 6:7, it says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. This group openly mocks Jesus Christ, the cornerstone of my faith. And I want to make it clear that I do not agree with nor support the decision of the Dodgers to honor, he put it in quotes, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. Signed, Blake Treinen. Bravo. Absolutely bravo. I'm not a Christian, but I think this man saying, do not mock me and my faith is absolutely warranted. If you had Jewish people playing on this team and they openly mocked Jewish people, I'd say the same thing. If you had Muslims playing on this team and they came out and they did something to openly mock Muslims on the field with drag imams, I'd say the same thing. Don't insult these people. In fact, I honestly think the drag stuff is just genuinely insulting, even to many LGBT people. You see, here's the important thing about how I grew up and what I was made to understand about LGBTQ stuff. They always just said, it's about love. I said, okay. And so I met many people in my days, many people who are LGBTQ. And I don't necessarily understand the TQ part. A lot of, I don't see how that relates with you have two guys wearing jeans and a t-shirt. They love each other. They are emotionally bonded to each other. And I don't want to take that away from them. I hear these sad stories where there are two men who have been together for a decade plus or longer. And when their significant other ends up in the hospital, they're denied access to that person. Now, that's horrifying to me. And so I said, you know what? My values growing up, we can't allow that. We need to protect that. Then all of a sudden, a guy dressed up as a drag nun and started dancing on stage, ripping his clothes off. And they said, this is the same thing. I said, no, it's not. It's not at all the same thing. Look, man, if they had two guys come out on the field and they said, we want to support and protect people who love each other, I'd say they're in no way insulting anybody. Now, a lot of people used to say stuff like, well, it is a mockery to Christians because the Bible says man and woman and all that. And I'm like, dude, they're not talking about you. They're not insulting you. You don't have to like what they do. But I agree with protecting the rights of these individuals. But all of a sudden, things change. I shouldn't necessarily say all of a sudden. It was over some period of time. Now, instead of just being like, hey, look, there's a woman. She's wearing a t-shirt and jeans. She happens to be romantically and sexually attracted to other women. It's none of your business what she does. She's just having a coffee. I'm like, yeah, okay, I respect that. Like, leave these people alone. I have many friends who are just regular people trying to live their daily lives. I think they should have rights. I think they should be protected and all that stuff. That's where I've always come from. Now you want nudity on the streets. Now you want books grooming kids in schools. They deny it. They lie about it. But even Nikki Fried, the Democrat who ran, I believe she ran for governor, called it, but I'm not even going to say it. She called it adult content. I'll be very light with it for the sake of the kids who may be listening to this. She referred to the books being banned in Florida as adult content. And I'm like, yes, I agree. Stop giving that stuff to kids. So when did it go from there's a guy wearing a suit with a briefcase, and it's none of your business who he's in love with, to a clown dressing up like a nun and mocking and laughing at Christians? It's absurd to me. The fact that now you relate just an adult man wearing a t-shirt and jeans who may or may not be gay. It's like, okay, he's a gay guy. You don't even know that. You don't even know. You see him walking on the street. Now, all of a sudden, you have a drag queen dancing around and prancing around with big fake hips, wearing fake boobs where you can see the nipples, and simulating adult activities on stage. And they're like, that's the same thing. I'm like, no, it isn't. But this always bothered me. Because when I was a kid, I tell you these stories, man. It's always been sexualized. They have these pride parades where people are engaging in simulated sex acts, and they're prancing around naked and doing other things. And it's like, what does that have to do with love? It's the lie. So while I support the love, I question why they openly do these things. And I think it makes a mockery of run-of-the-mill gay people who just want to get by with their lives. And the same thing is true with people like Dylan Mulvaney, openly mocking and insulting trans people and turning into a minstrel show. Dylan Mulvaney is a minstrel show not just of women, but also trans people. Trans people don't act like that. These conservatives will see these really awful videos of trans people and say, aha, that's it. And I'm like, dude, you don't even notice most of the trans people. You don't notice most of them. And I'm like, I don't think kids should be getting sex changes or these puberty blockers and chemicals and all that stuff. But I also I've always been traditionally liberal. And here I am standing up for Christians because at the same way we should not put on a show insulting, gay people or black people or Jewish people. Don't do it to Christians. Don't mock their faith this openly. Now, check this out. Trevor Williams, another player, calls, the report is he's calling for a boycott. He's got this, check this out. He says, as a devout Catholic, I am deeply troubled by the Dodgers' decision to reinvite and honor the group Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence at their Pride Night this year. A Major League Baseball game is a place where people from all walks of life should feel welcomed, something I greatly respect and support. This is the organization of different themed nights hosted by the organization, including Pride Night. To invite and honor a group that makes a blatant and deeply offensive mockery of my religion and the religion of over 4 million people in LA County alone undermines the values of respect and inclusivity that should be upheld by any organization. This is my point. As a traditional liberal, classical liberal leans more towards, right-leaning libertarianism a little bit. I'm more of a traditional liberal, like 10, 20 years ago. I do not find it appropriate to invite a group whose sole purpose is to insult another group of people. And Christians, Christian conservatives don't agree with me on a ton of issues, but I will stand up for them the same as I would stand up for anybody. The left lies. They say, Tim's a bigot and he hates LGBT or whatever. I'm like, no, actually, I'm fully in support. The problem is you send these people out to openly insult a group of people for no purpose other than to insult a group of people. And I tell you no, and then they lie and say, Tim Pool doesn't like LGBT. Whatever. It's lies. Absolute BS. He says, we want to be inclusive. I completely agree. You see, here's the thing. Diversity, inclusivity, these are fantastic things. But that's not what they actually mean when they say diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're actually saying bend the knee, give us power, and shut your mouth. That's why when Black Panther comes out, it's an 80%, 90% black cast. Say it's diversity. No, it isn't. It's not at all. Diversity, I like. Real diversity. When they make, they like Shang-Chi, they make a movie, right? And it's a Chinese superhero. And I'm like, I think that's great. I think it's great when they make movies like Shang-Chi, when they make movies where the main characters are not white males. I don't care for the purpose of making a movie where the lead is not a white male, but we had Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. We do these Marvel movies. All the leads are white dudes. And that's fine. I like those movies. Then they say, we're going to do a movie now with like an Asian lead. And I'm like, oh, that's cool too. That's super cool. You can do a superhero movie with a black superhero. You can do a black James Bond. I think that's totally fine. The James Bond thing is where the line starts getting crossed when you start saying, and again, I still do think they talked about Idris Elba as James Bond, and I'm like, I think that'd be fantastic. Just from my perspective. The issue is when they start erasing traditional characters to make them, like, recast them as minorities, like they're doing with Aragorn. I'm like, you're crossing the line. Make new characters. That real diversity is when you're like, we're going to make new characters. We're going to say to the world right now, we respect people from all walks of life and different perspectives and views. But I don't think the race matters all that much. They go in and they erase old characters. Don't do that. We like our stories. Make new characters. Let me read what else he goes on to say. Creating an environment in which one group feels celebrated and honored at the expense of another is counterproductive and wrong. It is a clear violation of the Dodgers' discrimination policy, which explicitly states that any conduct or attire at the ballpark that is deemed to be indecent or prejudice against any particular group or religion is not tolerated. I'm like, okay. Like, that's the crazy thing. A private organization should have the right to say, we don't want you. We reserve the right to refuse service to you. And that goes for a bakery in Colorado, too. The thing about the bakery in Colorado is that he said, I will provide you any service. I'm just not going to write a specific message. You can't make me violate my faith. And I'm like, okay, I totally get it. If there was only one bakery, I'd say we've got an issue. Now you've got a situation where the left, lying, claiming they oppose hate speech, are celebrating it. He says, it seems the Dodgers have made an exception in this case, doubling down that this group, which grossly disrespects and openly mocks many of the traditions and beliefs that Catholics hold most dear, should be celebrated. I believe it is essential for the Dodgers to reconsider their association with this group and strive to create an inclusive environment that does not demean or disrespect the religious beliefs of any fan or employee. I also encourage my fellow Catholics to reconsider their support of an organization that allows this type of mockery of its fans to occur. Brilliant. I know I'm not alone in my frustration, hurt, and disappointment about the situation. As Catholics, we look to Jesus Christ and the way he was treated, and we realize that any suffering in this world unites us to him in the next. Of course, then you have the inverse. Toronto Blue Jays player cowers before woke mob after sharing support for Target and Bud Light boycotts. Truly pathetic.
I recognized yesterday I made a post that was hurtful to the Pride community, which includes friends of mine.
The Pride community, huh?
Close family members of mine, and I am truly sorry for that. I just spoke with my teammates and shared with them my actions yesterday. I apologize with them. And as of right now, I'm using the Blue Jays resources to better educate myself, to make better decisions moving forward. The ballpark is for everybody. We include all fans at the ballpark, and we want to welcome everybody. That's all I have to say.
Includes everybody. I'll be better educated. I ask you this, good sir. Now, I know you're talking about Target and Bud Light and all that stuff. My question is, why is he saying it's for everybody? I apologize. The Pride community, huh? Yet LA Dodgers openly mock people like you. Stop being a coward. You know what I would do if I was him? I'd say, listen, so long as Major League Baseball openly mocks and belittles my faith, you'll not get an apology from me. If the issue is that you feel that you're being excluded by my statements because I supported a boycott, well, then I simply ask, why are the LA Dodgers doing what is effectively the same thing, if not worse? You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. That being said, calling for a boycott of a company because they're targeting children is different from having a minstrel show on display on the field. Very, very different. He's not insulting LGBTQ individuals simply by saying Bud Light should not be promoting commercials to children. And Target shouldn't be promoting sexual lifestyles to children. It's very, very different. It's very different. But this is the game. The point is, I think there was like Tim Heidecker tweeted something at Matt Walsh saying like their goal is to normalize this behavior for children so that they're not scared or whatever when they're older. And I'm just like, you see, I'll tell you right now, Tim Heidecker, you see, that's where we disagree to a point where we will never agree. Children should not be exposed to sexualized ideas. Children should be taught how to live, work, survive, and then the birds and the bees come later. When you have a man dress like a nun and then mock a religion, I don't see how that is normalizing good behavior for kids to spread hate, fear, and anger, and mockery and derision. That's not diversity. So I tell you this, let kids be kids. They live in a world where they want children to be normalized to like a guy in a dog costume shaking his butt on the ground or people spanking each other in the streets. No, sorry, not interested. And we'll never agree. And you know what? I don't care what you think. You can tweet all day and night that I'm wrong. Listen, bro, your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. A guy with a Bugs Bunny mask flopping his genitals around in public in front of children. You've got people spanking each other, men wearing weird kink article. Like, I guess you can't call them clothing. Wearing dog masks. You cheer for that. Your boos mean nothing to me. You want to indoctrinate kids to that. Ain't happening on my part. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So you can complain all day and night. I don't care about you and the people who support what you believe because I think you're sick and twisted. Therein lies the distinction. You can come out all day and night and say, I hate you, I hate this, you're that, you're fascists. And I'm not pulling punches. And I don't care what you think of the word. You see, here's the problem. People on the right are like, they're communists. They're not communists. The communists hated corporations. They destroyed them and the government took them over. These people praise Amazon, Walmart, big tech, big corporations. They defend big pharmaceutical corporations. They support war. They're fascists. They are some iteration of fascism, a lucrative merger of corporation and state. And I'm going to call them fascists. That's it. That's it. And tell regular people, you see, they weaponize these words. And then the people on the right stop using them. No. Okay. The lucrative merger of corporation and state. I despise it. I don't like big corporations and I don't like big government. I think there should be limited government, which regulates big corporations, and antitrust should break them up. But I don't think big government should take its place. So if you were one of these leftists that support massive multinational corporations like big pharmaceutical companies, and you also are an authoritarian, you're a fascist. And this is the problem that we have in this country. There really is a rise in fascism. That's what we're seeing when people like this dude engage in struggle sessions. People, of course, call them Maoists and all that stuff. And there's a similarity. But call them what it... Look, the communists shattered corporations, took them over. Okay? We can argue it's similar, but it's fascism, the lucrative merger of corporation and state. They are not breaking the corporation and putting under the umbrella of government. They are infecting them and putting their ideology and religion into them. So I'm not playing that game. A tale of two baseball players, three really, but two sides. One guy who rejects, I'll say this, in my view, like Seamus didn't completely agree, but this Blue Jays guy is outright rejecting his own faith. And then you have these other guys who stood up for their faith. We'll see how this stuff plays out, of course, but I think it's a major victory, to be honest. These baseball players speaking up. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.